Good morning, Mort. Looks like we have some tests to run through today.
Hello, this is James from GamesRadar, and today I am joined by David Horton to talk about Prey. Now, Dave, this is the same footage we saw at the Game Awards, but you have lots of new info to share on it, right?
Yes, this is the stuff they showed at the Game Awards, which was also the demo they showed at QuakeCon, which I saw earlier in the summer. But since then, I've also been over to Arkane Studios in Austin and seen a fair bit more of it, yeah.
Perfect. So what's exactly going on here? You're on Talos 1, which is a space station?
Yes, it's set in a near-future, alternate future history. Just is that Kennedy was never shot, so ploughed loads more resources into the space race, so we had a space station up near the moon way earlier than we have now, because we still haven't. It was a US-Russian co-production. Since it was built over the last 40 years, it's been laid and built and tuned up and changed its purpose a few times. Was like an ISS situation. Now it's more of a private research facility. An experiment has gone wrong, obviously, and you as a character called Morgan, you wake up in the midst of this as it's all going off, people dying, aliens everywhere, all kinds of horrible shit going wrong, and you've got to work out what's going on, survive and get the hell out.
And the experiments aren't just on the people who are on the ship, it's also on you as well, right?
We think so far. They're being quite close to the chest about it at the moment, but the gist is, yeah, some extraterrestrial life has been discovered. It has various abilities, physical, psychic, etc. The experiments seem to have been related to that stuff. Basically, these things are broken out all over the place. Things are going very strange. But along the way, you will, as well as weapons and gadgets, etc., you'll be able to pick up a lot of alien abilities along the way as well. Change your own abilities to deal with that as you go on. Very, very much in the kind of Bioshock kind of vein, really. Like, so, it looks like a shooter, but it's much more of an RPG.
So around the ship you get to pick up weapons and things, but they shouldn't be things you rely on. You mentioned the orgs, and you can learn them from things on the ship?
Yeah, these are all like latent biological alien abilities. The way that works is that you have this thing called the psychoscope. If you play Bioshock and you use the camera system, you know, we can take photos of splices and gain various buffs. It's like a much more extreme version of that, basically, where if you scan a certain enemy type a few different times, you can learn abilities from that, which you can then, as part of a skill tree, used to infuse yourself with those abilities. They make you, I mean, you don't have to use any of them. The game's completely freeform, very much in the Dishonored vein. It's kind of got the sort of shape of Bioshock with the spirit of Dishonored in terms of being very adaptable to however the player wants to play it, but you can do a crazy amount of stuff with that. The flip side is that the more alien ability you infuse yourself with, the more the world around you starts to react to that. Right. Like, aliens will become aware that there's something with their powers that isn't them and be attracted to it. Security systems will maybe start seeing you as more alien than human eventually. So there's a big kind of meta world payoff to that as well.
All right, you mentioned the way that the story works. So there are story objectives and side missions.
Yes.
But it's all about, like, player choice. There's no set way of doing these things.
Absolutely. The best way of looking at it at the moment is that it's got the moment-to-moment freedom to experiment that Dishonored has, but with the open-world freedom that Bioshock has, but more so than that. I mean, technically you're on this closed space station, but they're running it as like an old-school dungeon crawl, effectively, in that if you've got the abilities, you can go anywhere, basically, and if you can work out ways of using those abilities, then you can go anywhere. You can even spacewalk outside the station, come in somewhere else entirely. That stuff will be gated by enemy difficulty and puzzle difficulty, but if you can explore as long as you can survive, basically. There is definitely a main story pushing you forward, and a lot of dynamic side quests that come out of that as well that you can pick up or not. So the game leads you in a kind of guided but very organic way. But yeah, you can kind of go anywhere you want and do anything you want as long as you can find a way of doing it.
Okay. Now, we did mention weapons, and one of the main standout ones is the glue gun.
Yeah, this if they use this right, this could be the game changer. I mean, you've got your usual array of shotguns and pistols for killing stuff with. Again, you know, the blunt object when you haven't got any other options or you can't think of something better to do. The glue gun, if it's used right, could be like the new version of the gravity gun in Half-Life, basically, in that, in a way, it's ostensibly a weapon, but in terms of changing your environment around you, it's crazy powerful. What it does, it's like a big hose that sprays goop, which sets really fast into solid lumps. So, basic level, freeze an enemy, shotgun it when it can't move. Fine, that works. But, on the other hand, say you need to get to a higher level. You can find a way around. Like, there'll always be multiple ways of doing stuff. It's left very open-ended. But you could simply just spray a staircase up the wall and run up that. You can spray an enemy, lock them in place, use them as cover, use them as a platform. I've seen bits in the sort of demo at the studio where there was an empty lift shaft. could find power, could find a new way around, or just spray blobs on the walls and work your way up. Nice. It's the whole game's being built with. I think it's a good metaphor for the whole game, really, in that if you can get creative, you can effectively not quite sequence break, but you can sort of break the way the game's meant to be played. And the whole game's being designed in that respect, really, in that I think part of the reason it's still an alpha is that Arkane have this core philosophy of say yes to the player, and every time they find a new exploit or a new way of using various combinations of systems in the game, the first thought is not fix it. The first thought is always, can we adapt this? Can we change the game to make this work, basically? So
while you're out there, you did actually get to see a boss fight as well. How does that work with all the powers and things?
Several ways. They showed us a few different versions of it. There was this thing called the telepath, huge hulking lump of shadow meat floating around. It's massive. It can take a load of punishment. Interesting part. First of all, first decision is it can, being a telepath, it can puppeteer other humans around, right? Human casualties will affect the way the story plays out and how the way the ending works out. So if you want to keep those guys alive, you've got 3 or 4 ways of doing that. Either knock them out straight away, you can ignore them and hope that just you can stay out of the way and not hurt them, but they could just die anyway and be collateral damage. And the big guy, you can run around, shotgun, use your jetpack to kind of boost around, do a little Quake style kind of try and take him out that way. We saw them, the devs, bait it up the stairs, then hit it with the glue gun, at which point it freezes and becomes a physics object and just rolls down the stairs again, taking damage, then they can beat the hell out of it at the bottom. The best one, though, was... and it was a situational thing because it was kind of set up, but if you can scan it with a psychoscope and have the right set of abilities, it has this psychic shot that will shut down your psi abilities for 30 seconds. If you can, what they did was stole that from it mid-fight, learnt it, equipped it, threw it straight back, and being a purely psychic being, it then can't do anything. So just shut down all its attacks, then went in and nailed it, basically.
All right, sounds really exciting. Prey is out in 2017, and for more gaming news, reviews, previews, and features, keep it here on GamesRadar Plus.